Fairly recently, a ton, and I mean a ton of Mario announcements were made to celebrate the series' 35th anniversary. I'm sure you've heard of them by now, but the highly rumored remastered collection has been officially revealed, along with the also rumored enhanced port of 3D World. But then we got a couple of surprises like the in-home Mario Kart, Mario Brothers on the Game & Watch, and even a Mario version of Tetris 99. And while my initial reaction was immense joy and excitement like most others due to the glorious rush of nostalgia that I was experiencing, as I've taken more time to digest what was told to us that day, my view has slowly become more mixed. Now, this definitely isn't to say that I'm necessarily disappointed with the announced games or anything like that. As I've expressed in my love-hate video about 3D Mario games, there's a lot that I love about each of the games which are either getting ported with additional content like 3D World, or the ones being quote-unquote remastered. I'm still very excited for them. Why else would I have been so hyped about simple rumors of their existence, right? No, my problem comes with the fine print surrounding the games announced here. The limited time windows, the pricing, the upgrades to the games themselves, and more. And it's not only a problem with this one specific instance, but these types of issues have actually happened before, several times even. This is part of a larger problem within the company itself, a problem that generally embodies Nintendo as a whole. A company with a fan base that's wrapped so tightly around its finger that many in the community will defend any decision that they make, regardless of how ridiculous that it may be. Today we're not only discussing the massive Mario announcements and my very conflicted view on them, but also a much larger issue. An issue with Nintendo and their strategies to drain as much money out of our pockets for a minimal amount of effort. A company that I love and has shown time and time again can put out some of the highest quality video game products that I've ever seen, while simultaneously making some of the most boneheaded, ignorant, and greedy decisions. Let's talk about their most exciting, yet concerning announcement this year. We're going to jump around throughout the announcements today, starting with the positives and then following up with the negatives. And the first thing that I want to talk about is just how excited I am about the 3D Mario remasters actually being a thing. They released surprisingly soon to their reveal, which was pretty interesting, as I thought that Paper Mario was pretty extreme, but this is to a whole other level. My guess as to why this was is because of the circumstances in the world right now and there not being enough content for a full Nintendo Direct that was likely planned earlier on in the year where this would have been announced. And in combination with them being leaked a long time beforehand, it really wasn't that necessary for Nintendo to give us so much time to wait. There's also an additional reason behind this, being to encourage impulse purchasing, but I'll get into that more in the negative section. For now, let's discuss these three games and why I'm happy that they're coming to the Switch. These are three of the most highly rated Nintendo games of all time in the minds of critics and fans alike. The means to play each of them modernly has slowly been dwindling, especially with the lack of a virtual console on the Switch, and unless you want to pirate them, which many have been doing but it's technically illegal and makes some people uncomfortable, there haven't been as many ways to access them. This is especially true for Sunshine, where your best bet is to likely buy a physical copy for the GameCube on eBay that'll definitely run you a fair penny. So yeah, while these games have been experienced in the past by many fans like myself, and I've enjoyed them very much, it's undeniably been true that it's been difficult for many to get their hands on them, and some younger fans definitely haven't gotten a chance to experience some of the greatest Mario games of all time. For the fans like myself, yeah, it's great to experience them again for the nostalgia and the ability to play them on the go, but it's especially important for those who haven't, because you're getting three games in this collection that have been remembered as some of the most defining games on each of their respective consoles, and in many respects have stood the test of time. These aren't some run-of-the-mill bargain bin games getting slapped together in a mini anniversary collection. These games are legendary. But in terms of the remastered collection, this is where the positives stop. Now, I really want to establish something before we get into the negatives here, and this is the fact that the positives tremendously outweigh the negatives for me. I've seen some fans online who are asking and begging for Nintendo to put these games on the Switch, and when they finally do, they completely turn against them. I not only find that really hypocritical, but just generally kinda sad. I don't want to come off as having that attitude, because I'm not trying to put a damper on the hype or discourage you from buying something that you're looking forward to. I'm looking forward to them as well, as I was just talking about, but I think that for anything in this vein, I'd be doing a disservice to you pretending as if everything is perfectly fine, putting up an illusion as if this is completely ideal so that the hardcore Nintendo fanboys and apologists don't turn against me. I value being honest and speaking my mind about these games, so here we go. Before we get to the biggest negative and the elephant in the room when it comes to these games, I'll knock out a couple of minor negatives, being the pricing and the strange control and graphical decisions surrounding these titles. Let's begin with those strange decisions, with one of the main ones for me being the idea to keep Mario 64 in 720p resolution, whereas the other two games in the collection were upscaled to 1080p. This not only creates a strange inconsistency, but it's weird to me that Nintendo genuinely thought that they didn't need to give it the same treatment. The game does look a lot cleaner than the original, but I still wish it was at 1080p. I know as Nintendo fans we have to get a little crazy with our expectations, but when these games got leaked, I expected at the bare minimum to be able to play these games at 1080p resolution. If you watch my wishlist videos about these remasters, one of the first things I always talked about was upscaling these games to HD and cleaning up the dated looks. This hasn't been fully realized for Mario 64, which is quite a shame. Definitely doesn't ruin it for me, and I think some people are making a much bigger deal out of it than it really is, but to make excuses for it and to try to say, oh well, it wouldn't look that good blown up as a higher resolution, it's pretty ridiculous. It would definitely look better if that effort was put in, don't kid yourself. Along with this comes the lack of control options for the other 3D Marios in this collection. Why can I only play Galaxy with Joy-Cons? Why? The exact statement that I've always given when it pertains to a Galaxy remaster was that yes, the Joy-Cons, because of their similar functionality to Wii remotes, would be a pretty seamless replacement. But, and this is a big but, there should be an option to play without the motion controls for those who would prefer it that way. And you know what? They actually did come through with this partially, in that you could play Galaxy on the portable Switch, but you've got to tap the screen to collect the star bits rather than shaking the right Joy-Con around. Does Nintendo really believe that the player base for these games is going to be too incompetent to be able to use the right joystick on the Pro Controller for Starbit collecting instead? Because that sounds exactly like what they're saying. And I'm not saying that it may be very easy to pick up for a very young player, which is a lot of the market, but making it an option in the settings wouldn't hurt at all, and it wouldn't be a very difficult thing to implement either. This is just another example of Nintendo forcing people to play a certain way, a problem that's persisted with this company for a long time. But it isn't even the only example in these remasters. When it comes to Mario Sunshine, many expected to be able to use the original GameCube controllers to play with, providing a more authentic experience for players looking to revisit the game. But surprise, surprise, it's not a supported controller format, so you're just kinda screwed. Nintendo is forcing people to play a certain way, limiting choices and options when it shouldn't be their hill to die on. They've done this in the past when it comes to the lack of online for Mario Party, limiting map selection in Splatoon, and a countless number of other examples. We're paying good money for something that was released almost 20 years ago, man, and I think people should get to play it the way they want, but hey, maybe I'm just an entitled Nintendo critic, right? And I mentioned it, so I might as well touch on the other relatively minor complaint, being the pricing. To me, it's pretty ridiculous when you look at the changes or lack thereof being made here. Considering that they haven't promoted any extra content for these games, if there is any, and the many poor options that I was pointing out, is this collection really worth the full $60 US price tag for those who haven't played any of these games before? In my opinion, absolutely. Is it worth it for those who have already played them countless times and are looking for something new? That's a matter of your own personal opinion. Am I an example as to why they can price it like this and still get away with it? Absolutely. They have so many of us wrapped around their finger. I obviously want to experience these games again on the go. I love them so much. I'm happily buying them again. But there aren't many fans happy about this cost. This is aided in the higher expectations that they may have had when you look at packs like the Crash and Spyro remastered trilogies that have completely upscaled graphics and aren't sold for a full price tag. Due to conflicting reports and the rampant speculation, many also wondered if Galaxy 2 would be included, which would definitely make the price a lot more reasonable. But in a video that I made a few months back, I explained that it was unlikely that it would come in a full capacity for various reasons. So yes, the pricing and the weird graphical decisions are slight problems for some. Maybe not problems to you, but problems to some people undeniably. But up next, we're gonna talk about something that has been nearly unanimously disliked. The big negative out of all of this being the disclaimer that this collection will only be available until the 31st of March next year. By far the most disappointing thing to me in the entire array of the 35th anniversary announcements. From a consumer standpoint, a limited time offer is ridiculous and fans are justifiably upset. But the key question here is why? Why would Nintendo do this? On the surface, it seems like they could be leaving a lot of money on the table with this decision, right? I mean, not all games immediately blow up sales-wise like Animal Crossing. Some have slowly accrued sales over time, and you're bound to get more sales over the rest of the lifespan of the Switch than in just a mere 6 months. But there seems to be an ulterior motive here. The first key reason with this is part of the long-term game, and it's for the ability to release these games again at a later date, such as 5 to 10 years from now, and in doing this maintain the same hype level as we're giving it here. But since the Switch has sold so well, if this collection is still out on the shelves at that time, many aren't going to find it as appealing to get it for the newer console. But because it'll have been 5 to 10 years since they have been able to buy these games, the appeal will likely re-emerge as it'll still have that prestigious value again, and potentially the idea of, oh, when will it be available next, I might have to get it now, will show up. And it'll be so long from now that even the people who bought it earlier may even get that urge to buy them again, which my wallet is dreading. Another reason in a similar vein to this is that if N64 games come to the Switch Online service later next year, and there would be no way to get your hands on Mario 64 at that point, they can now increase the incentive to buy the service to get people now to go and play Mario 64. Oh, you missed out on the opportunity to buy this classic Mario game? Well, have no fear, because you could just buy our online service, potentially on a higher tier level, something of that sort. However, likely the biggest reason that they're doing this is to massively boost their revenue by the end of the fiscal year. These are different depending on where you are, but in Japan, where Nintendo is getting its public investments, it ends on, you guessed it, March 31st. Due to the pandemic in the world right now, it's been a more difficult time for many businesses, and this obviously includes the video game industry. And we'll realize in the near future that many of the delays that are going on right now are going to have a big impact. So what's an easy way for Nintendo to boost their income with minimal effort from the development side of things in order to appear more appealing to investors during these uncertain times? Re-release 3 of the most beloved and popular Mario games of all time for full price and include a limited time window for people to do it to make sure that they don't wait and buy it as soon as possible. Force them to buy it now or miss the opportunity. Definitely getting many people who would wait until after the 31st of March to buy the collection sooner. This is almost printing money for them, and it'll show on their year end that they're still managing to put out popular products despite the measures that need to be put in place. But while this seems to make a ton of business sense for Nintendo now after digging a bit deeper, what is a bit more puzzling to me is the limited time window to play another announced game here, Super Mario Bros. 35. But before we get into the reasons for this, I think I need to talk about why I'm really looking forward to this one. This game is turning the original Super Mario Bros. Into a Tetris 99 styled battle royale game. The interface is nearly identical, and because of how much I really enjoyed Tetris 99 and how much I've really enjoyed Super Mario Bros., this game is like a dream come true for me. It may not be getting as much attention as the remasters or the 3D World port, which we're still going to get to later, but it is getting some slight attention that unfortunately is covering up the large amount of positives surrounding this title. This game, just like the remasters, has a limited time to play it, again until March 31st. But the reasoning for why this one has a limited time window is a little more complicated. Sure, you can use the argument of boosting buys for the Switch Online service by the end of the Japanese fiscal year, but not only are we dealing with much smaller numbers of fans being drawn to this title, but the other arguments of reselling it later down the line don't seem to be as strong. Obviously, they can just go and sell this game on its own later, but with online games like this, as we've seen with Tetris 99, the popularity seems to decline a lot after a while. Tetris 99 took the Nintendo community by storm when it was first launched. I remember seeing people everywhere talking about it and how much fun it was, and while I still enjoy to dabble in it to this day, that same sentiment cannot be shared with everyone. Lobbies take a lot longer to get full, and the popularity has undoubtedly declined. They did try to sell you a physical version of this game along with a digital purchase of other modes, but by the time those came out, a lot of the hype had already escaped. And I can't help but feel that in the 6 months that this game is going to be available, that the same thing might happen. Are you going to get some people to buy a definitive version of this later down the line? Absolutely, but probably not to the degree that if you put it out on an optional pack to buy with extra content out there around a month or two after it comes out, not 6. I have a feeling that they may create a pack of 3 or 4 Mario game types and put them in here as a full release after the 31st, and then just say if you want to play Mario 35 again, you'll have to buy it, but that's such a scummy decision. Again, it puts the business first before the fans, which I completely understand from their standpoint, but it shouldn't go unnoticed from the perspective of us, the fans. I'm super happy this game is a thing, and I'm very excited to play it, but Nintendo just had to come and add this caveat, putting a downer on the whole thing. And the last major game that I'm going to talk about today is Super Mario 3D World coming to the Nintendo Switch, which a lot of people have been excited about. I've touched on the Game & Watch title as well as the in-home Mario Kart, which are both nice, but I don't have enough to say about them that would be that thought-provoking or interesting. I guess if I had a concern about both of them, it would be the lack of content based on the cost, but we don't know enough information to fully determine that conclusion. In general, I'm looking forward to them, and that Mario Kart in particular is such a fun-looking and creative idea. 3D World, on the other hand, I do have a lot to say about. There's a lot positive though, which mainly comes from the Bowser's Fury content. As I've talked about in previous videos, there's a ton to like about 3D World. You can prefer the more open-ended 3D Marios all you want, hell even I do, but what I can't deny is that 3D World is still a ton of fun to play, and incredibly creative with its level design. The visuals are bright and beautiful, and in the Switch version they seem to actually have been touched up and improved upon a bit, which is a nice touch. You can also play online multiplayer now, which is a fantastic addition. If you never got to experience the multiplayer mode locally, but you have friends over the internet that you can now play with, you'll definitely be experiencing one of the most enjoyable aspects of this title now. It's definitely praiseworthy. Then you get to the obligatory new bundle of content for these enhanced ports, which has been pretty inconsistent throughout many that we've seen so far. For Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I was very happy with it. They had all the DLC from the original, a full and complete battle mode, a ton of new characters, and more. But then you get to something like Tropical Freeze, where the only main change is adding Funky Kong and other measures to make make the game easier. I love Tropical Freeze, but when you're trying to sell some fans a game for a second time, a bit more content would have been appreciated. So where do we stand on Bowser's Fury, the main form of new content being added into 3D World? Well, as has been established, it's pretty difficult to tell how much content there's going to be because at the time of my creation of this video, we haven't seen that much. But I'm gonna be honest and say that from the brief view of it that we have seen, it's getting me really excited. There are parts of a level that we've seen which makes me think that it's either part of a full new world or a more open-ended new level. And then there's that cat statue, which is really cool because it's making some people believe that you could play as Cat Bowser in there, which seems really interesting. I'm not gonna go into too much more speculation here because only time will tell what actually comes of this mode. It may not live up to the hype, or it could end up drastically exceeding fans' expectations as well. Only time will tell. If we are going to talk about something problematic surrounding 3D World here, the only main issue still wouldn't be specific to that game itself. If you're someone who's played this on the Wii U and just wants to play through the new content that looks pretty interesting, you've got to buy the entire game for a second time at full price. Again, like the remasters, this same debacle comes up. If you haven't played this game before, then with this online mode, and if Bowser's Fury turns out to be good, I'd say it's absolutely worth the full price purchase. Undoubtedly if you're a Mario fan. But if you've already played the game, you've got to start asking these questions for yourself and go and make that decision. If the new content and the ability to experience this game on the go really push it over the edge for you, then go for it. But if it's not enough, it may not be the best purchase for you, and I understand those who are wanting new games instead of the near entirety of the Wii U library being ported to the Switch. In general, I feel that Nintendo does a great job at putting out a good public message to the community, making us feel closer to figures like Sakurai, Miyamoto, and guys like Reggie when he was still around. It makes us feel like they're only in this to make us happy and fulfill their mission statement, which is to surprise and delight. And I must admit that while I wasn't that surprised, I was indeed delighted by these announcements. However, I'm still unfortunately concerned about many aspects. Am I glad that I'll have the opportunity to play some of my favorite games of all time once again, and a new generation of fans can now experience them for the first time as well? Yeah, but as we've gone over today, not everything has been flawless, and Nintendo still makes some anti-consumer boneheaded decisions. If you enjoyed this video and want to see new ones as soon as they come out, consider leaving a like and subscribing so that you do not miss anything. I also really want to know how you feel about this situation. Are you entirely happy with everything here? Have you been let down by what's been shown? Or do you fall somewhere in the middle like myself? Let me know in the comments, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.